Hello, and welcome to the SaWGuy podcast.
Like scary movies. What's your favorite scary movie?
Here's Johnny.
We'll tear your soul apart.
The boogeyman is real, and you found him.
Game over, man. Game over.
What do you want?
I want to hear you scream. From the front time, bitch.
Welcome to the SaWGuy podcast. As always, I'm the SaWGuy, bringing you episode number 15. That's 10 plus 5. Yeah, there you go. 15 episodes. Y'all survived this long. Might as well keep going, right? Fuck it, you know? So, anyways, got another good episode, like I always do, right? We're going to talk about the collection series. Ooh. A lot of people forget about the collector and the collection. And it's funny because when I bring it up to anybody I talk to on social media or people, friends, everyone that I know, they're basically like, collector, what the fuck? I never seen that movie. Then when they see it, whether it pops up on Hulu, Netflix, or any of these streaming sites, everyone remembers, oh yeah, that movie was pretty good. Yeah. What a lot of people forget though about that one is that not only is it pretty good on its own, but it was actually meant as a prequel to Saw. That's right. And blew me away because that was the whole reason why I wanted to go see this film in the first place when it came out, the first one, The Collector. And when The Collector came out, everyone was hyping it up saying, oh, it's a prequel to Saw, it's a prequel to Saw, or it fits in the Saw timeline. Well, long story short, this was actually the script for Saw 4, back when Saw 4 was supposed to come out. It was either this script or the one with Saw 4, what we got, which is a continuation, which I'm not going to knock on because Saw is my favorite. I mean, obviously, right? And basically, they figured, okay, let's stash this script to the side and sell it as a different movie. And that's what Marcus Dunstan and Patrick Melton did. They are the writers of Saw 4, 5, 6, and 3D. They didn't do the last one, Jigsaw, but they did, 4 of them, which is a good amount. They also did Feast. They work as a tag team duo. Well, anyways, they did this movie called The Collector. It was meant as a prequel, and you can see a lot of the Saw references when you see it, right? But anyways, let's get to it, because I know a lot of people are like, what the hell is this series about, right? So, anyways, The Collector is, well, I call it Collection Series because it's a 2-part movie. There's talks about doing a part 3, but I'll get to that later in this episode. So anyways, the movie starts off, you follow this guy. He's basically like a handyman, construction worker. He's snooping around things as he's fixing, and I guess he's fixing this house for a famous jeweler, this guy who makes hella money. It's this nice house in the middle of nowhere. So anyways, this guy's fixing up this house, and his daughter comes around, kind of creeps him out a little bit, but then he was like, okay, well, play with the kid or whatever. Kids are kids, right? Kids are innocent. Anyways, he goes back to work. He sees this beehive, or this wasp's nest, and he basically is telling the exterminator, hey, there's a wasp nest over there. Because it's not just him, it's other people. Well, later on you find out in the story, after he gets paid, you find out more about the family and how they are. Basically, they have a older daughter who is, at that rebel stage or whatever. They never implied her age, but the father kind of hinted that she was 13, which is a little weird, because if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. But anyways, the owner of the house, or the jeweler, the famous guy, he basically pays him in cash and says, here you go. Later on, you follow the main character, and he's actually the main character. His name's Arkin. They never say his last name. But anyways, Arkin, he goes and gets a toy for his daughter, because I guess it's her birthday, or he wanted to see her, or whatever. And then his wife is just kind of had this bitchy attitude, where she's just basically like, you got the money? And later on, you find out within the next minute, it's because she took a loan out with the loan sharks, and says, okay, we need to pay him. And he basically takes it into his own hands, where you find out he's actually a professional thief. Which is a twist, which is like, oh, okay, I can see that. That's pretty cool. So he goes and meets with the guy that he does all of the thieving with and jewel stealing shit and all that. They had some words and basically said, okay, whatever you get out of it, you get 40%. And, I get 60 or whatever. So the whole story goes is that he goes back to this rich jeweler's house because they're supposed to go out of town for a family vacation. Little bit did he know that the collector was already there. And what was funny about that is just it's more of a home invasion movie, which is kind of weird, because they never really talk about like it being a home invasion. But for it being a home invasion film, it's actually pretty cool because he's in there trying to rob the guy, and basically he knows where the hidden safe is behind the mirror and shit. He knows a little bit of the family, which is kind of creepy in a way, but I mean, he was the man on the inside. That's basically what he was. And he doesn't know what the hell's going on because he's like, okay, what the fuck? Everything's a little different. The windows have boards on them. He starts seeing random shit like nails, and then he starts hearing screams, and then eventually he finds out that he's trapped in there with the collector. And the collector, what his motto is that he basically locks people in these rooms or their houses or whatever, and he tortures all of them. And he takes one and keeps that one and brings him back. And you find out in part 2, he brings him back to his lair. And part 2 explains it a little bit better, but part 1 was all about the mystery of who is the collector. And what I loved about the first collector, and what was different, was it was a home invasion. This guy here, he's just trying to steal jewels or whatever, pay off these loan sharks, do away with it, right? But then he's caught in this situation like, okay, what the fuck do I do? So he starts seeing the guy who paid him, the owner of the house and everything, and they're all freaking out thinking it's him that's doing it, Arkin. And Arkin's like, what the fuck? And he's just kind of caught in the middle. And he decides, okay, I'm going to try and save these people. And he's brushes off the fact that he was trying to steal the jewels, because they later on were asking him, what the fuck are you doing here? Oh, I left some tools, right? Because he's supposed to be a handyman. Anyways, you find out that the father was tortured, the guy who paid him, the famous jeweler. His wife is there, but then she's locked up in, they're all locked up in the basement downstairs, and she's tied inside a bath, and she's, covered with duct tape over her eyes. But when he tries to remove it, you find out that she's fucking stapled shut with nails. And it's like, whoa, okay. This is where you start seeing the Saw twist here. And the whole time they're in the basement, it has the green tint on the film, similar to the first Saw and the second Saw, which was like, whoa, okay, this is pretty cool. The music sounds very similar. It's not Charlie Closer in the first one, but he comes back in the second one. Let me get to that. So the whole story goes that he's trying to save these people little by little, and he basically has to ask the wife, hey, I need you to cause a distraction so I can run up the basement, because they wanted the parents, or the two people that were being tortured, they wanted Arkin to go and save the little girl that he had talked to. She was about 9, 10, around that age, young kid. So anyways, he says, okay, I need you to be a distraction. And so it goes into where, she just distracts the collector. He comes down. Then he starts fucking with her, basically grabbing her tongue with the pliers, pulling it out, and was going to clip her tongue, but it doesn't. He basically just tells her as a hint, like, hey, shut the hell up, Arkin goes up there. He doesn't find her, but he gets stuck in this little, kind of like, not quicksand, but like poison trap and shit, the ones they put for roaches, and it's acid. So it's basically, they had a cat and it was stuck there and was being loud, growling at him, hissing at him. So he basically pulls this cat out, rips the skin out, and then this cat just jumps up on the baseboard of the window, sets off a trap, cuts the cat in half, and whoa, like, what the fuck just happened? And the collector, he senses something. He doesn't know somebody else is in there, but he senses something. And then later on, you figure out what's going on about how the collector collects people, right? So he sees the big-ass box. He opens it up and ends up being a guy, which I should have mentioned in the beginning, that in the beginning there's a man and a woman comes home, they find a box, and then it starts the story, right? Anyways, you find out what happens to that guy because he was locked in the box. Then he tells Arkin the whole story. He kills them all, but he saves one, and you're next. You're never going to escape. You're never going to escape. So it goes into the whole story where he tells the guy, shut the fuck up, puts him back in. Collector starts sentencing something. And then eventually the older daughter comes home with her boyfriend. They weren't drunk, but they implied that they that they were going to be active. You know what I mean? And when they get inside the house, they started noticing, like, okay, there's like 5, 6 different deadbolts, because the collector, he traps everybody in. And he puts in like 6 or 7 different deadbolts so no one can get in. And he has everything rigged like Saw. And what's cool about the first one is that you have all these camera scenes where it zips into the like the lines and all the gears and shit moving, and then it shows all the traps going. Well, anyways, this is the best scene in the movie for me. I'm a Saw guy, so we all know that. That's why my name is SaWGuy, right? Anyways, they start getting active, getting physical, the older daughter and her boyfriend, and then all of a sudden they see the collector in the corner, like, what the fuck? He comes out with the throwing knives and puts it right through the guy's wrist. Well, not his wrist, but his knuckle as he was punching, right? And then kicks him, sets off a trap where the machete comes down, cuts his hand. Then he basically pushes him into this room where there's a shitload of bear traps. So his foot gets snapped. Then he falls down. Then it snaps on his shin. Then he falls backwards. And then just all the traps just... Which was a really cool scene. And I wonder if it actually was supposed to be meant for a Saw trap. Just the way how the cinema... Well, the whole camera angles and everything just swooping all around. It reminded me of Amanda and the Jaw Trap, which was really cool. And then you find out that the collector is messing with the older daughter. Like, he picks her up, he puts her, well, ties her down to the staircase or something. Arkin comes in and says, shut the fuck up, I'm trying to help you. And then she goes ape shit. She springs a trap, and then she's thrown into the flat screen, because they had like a projector screen TV, and it had nails right through it. She's gone, right? He goes down back to the basement and tries to tell the wife, like, hey, I couldn't find your daughter. But then he ends up finding the husband, the jeweler. He's hanged upside down with his guts and everything spilled out because the collector had already tortured him. Then he helps her out, and what's crazy, she does a dumb thing, starts panicking because she sees her husband, and he's telling her, quiet, 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 he's coming. Well, the buildup of it, the suspense was just like, whoa. She runs up the stairs, and all of a sudden the collector's waiting right for her. He shakes her a couple times, and then he basically is just like, you know, in horror movies when you sit there and watch, like, you shouldn't have gone in there, what the hell? He had one of those moments. Eventually he escapes from the basement, goes up there, he finds the little girl, the daughter, and while this is all going on, the older daughter, when she was getting attacked by the collector, she had dialed 911, so a cop is coming at the same time. And when the cop comes, he sees that the kid, her boyfriend, is all trapped inside the jaw trap. Well, I was going to say jaw traps. I meant bear traps. So the cop freaks out, calls for backup. You find out that the collector has a bunch of dogs. Well, the second one he had a bunch of dogs. The first one he only had one mean-ass dog. Well, anyways, he calls the dog over to attack the cop. The cop basically gets his neck ripped out and everything. Then the collector calls off the dog, kills the cop. Then all the cops start coming. He grabs a shotgun. And it becomes this whole cat and mouse trap game inside the house. Similar to Saw 2. This is why I say there's a lot of reference to it. And how it could have been a prequel, which would have been a damn good prequel. But I don't know how they would do that story. But anyways, he finds the girl. They're trying to escape. The collector knows that Arkin's in there. And they had this plan that they were going to knock over this fish tank and throw a TV down so it would shock him. Collector wasn't stupid. He basically opens the door and throws the guy that was inside the box in there, so it kills that guy. They go run into another room, which is a bathroom, and the collector has fucking fish hooks hanging. And if any of you guys know how fish hooks works, they have a barb at the end. So when it like punctures your skin, it goes in really quick, but it's a pain in the ass to get out. And there's a lot of cringing on that because it gets in on his eyebrow and everything. Then eventually the girl goes through the chute. The collector beats him up. As he's getting beat up, he unmasks him, sees who he looks like, and then he knocks him out. And then basically he puts Arkin, tied up in the basement, starts torturing him. And the torture scene was just brutal. Like, when I get into it, you're gonna be like, "What the hell?" Yeah, because it was brutal as shit to me. Because let's just say it involves cockroaches, and I fucking hate cockroaches, right? Well, anyways, he straps him down to the side, has him hanging with handcuffs, and he has fish hooks right through his wrist, fish hooks through his back, and basically he's trying to torture Arkin to tell him where the girl's at. Well, the collector don't know that the girl's in the basement because she went down the laundry chute. So little by little, he starts torturing him. He wakes him up by cutting his forehead, and then he basically tries to get him to talk by chiseling out his teeth, which was like, holy shit. Then he's basically thinks he sees the girl, and then he ends up calling him a fucking faggot, saying, "That's all you got, you fucking faggot? You bitch, I can take you on," right? That pissed off the collector. Comes back, and then he cuts him in the stomach, and he gets these hissing cockroaches. And I don't know if they were alive or whatever. I tried looking up all my research to see if they actually use like live, insects and shit like that. And it tripped me out because he did the thing where he basically put it right there, lit a lighter, had his lighter going, and was pissing off the cockroaches to burrow right through Arkin. And that brutal as shit. And I hate fucking cockroaches. But anyways, he breaks out of it, and then they ended up, he goes out there and gets the dog to try to help him find Arkin somewhere in the house. Arkin does the smart thing of lighting a, what do you call it? Toilet roll, like, what do you call it? A toilet roll. That's all it was. Toilet roll paper. He lit it on fire, put it in the trash can, so when the dog came and found him, or found out where they were at, he basically puts it in the dog's face, smothers the dog. He goes downstairs to fight, and it's a good back and forth fight scene, because the dog's already knocked out or dead. They never implied if it was dead or whatever. But he throws the dog as he's shooting, so blows the dog in half, comes around, beats the shit out of the collector. Comes to find out that when he knocks him downstairs to the basement, he drops his keys. Well, he has a little girl helping him try to open the key, and then you find out the fucking key is broken off. So there's no way for them to get out, right? Builds up, builds up, builds up. Arkin was smart. He got a mirror, basically put it by the door, and was angled on the corner. So when he would shoot, it would blow out the door. And then he set off a trap where chandeliers with knives come down, get the collector, they escape, and you think it's a happy ending, right? Not so fast. He runs out to the street, the cop car hits him because he's trying to get their attention. And then the cops are there asking what happened, things like that. And you think that it's a happy ending, right? Then they left it open where he's leaving from the ambulance. Boom! Who is it? It's the collector. He goes over there. He kills the paramedic that was in the back with him. Cuts out the gurney. That way they can get Arkin out. And he puts Arkin in the box, throws him in his van, rips off his van sticker that says that he was an exterminator. And end of the first one. But then there's like after credit scenes where he's sitting on the box and Arkin's saying, I'm going to fucking kill you, blah, 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 blah. And then he's kicking it, like telling him shut the fuck up as he's watching the news about what happened. Well, anyways, that's the end of the first film. I know that was a lot. That was probably about 18 minutes of me talking about the first film. But the first film holds up really great because it can go both ways. Meaning that it could have served as a prequel to Saw, which would have sent the franchise somewhere way different. Or it could have done this movie as a standalone, which they did, which was fucking phenomenal. Because it had so many different backgrounds going on at once. You have basically a home invasion gone wrong, somebody locked in a house, you had the Saw twist to it. I wouldn't go as far as say it was torture porn, because it was the fact that it had meaning. Because they did the second one, and the second one explains who he was and everything like that. You find out in the first one, little by little, because he's an exterminator, he has a fond favoritism of insects. And you don't know why. You just know that he likes insects for an exterminator, which is weird because most, don't like insects. Anyways, when that movie came out, it was 2009. And it did good. It was low budget. It was probably about a couple million. But they got their money back in a bag of chips, right? So when they did all that, they figured, okay, let's do part 2, but let's call it The Collection, right? Cool name. It kind of ties in collector, collection, 1 and 2, right? So with part 2 picks up right after part 1. So you find out that Arkin's locked up. You find out that all of the cops are trying to look for him. His wife even comes out and says, hey, if you have him, let him go. Then it follows this different storyline of this rich girl. And they imply that she's a rich girl, or she's the daughter of somebody who's very famous. And the whole story goes is that what I thought was cool is that they play the fact that she had hearing loss, because I thought they were going to kind of tie in with the fact that she could speak sign language and stuff, because I'm hearing impaired myself, but they didn't, which would have been cool if they did, but they didn't. But anyways, the whole story goes, she was going to stay at home, study, typical teenager thing. Then her friend invites her out to a party because her boyfriend bailed on her. She goes to the party, and the party's run by the collector. She sees her boyfriend with another dude, or not another dude, another chick. She punches that dude, her boyfriend. Then she goes into the room. She opens the box that sets up the trap, and out of the box was Arkin. So anyways, it was this big-ass elaborate trap. And like Saw, they basically show all the different, sequences of everything. Turns on this big-ass grinder, grinds everybody. And he locks up more people, like in between like a wall, and then they play off of Saw 5, because this came out after Saw 5 in 2012. They show that it was a conveyor smashing everybody. And then he sees that Arkin escaped, and then he sees the girl Emma, which is the main character's name, the girl. So basically, instead of taking Arkin, he takes the girl. Arkin escapes, and basically he goes to a hospital. They figure out what the hell's going on. And then he thinks it's over, but then the collector sends him a note saying, "Can't wait to meet the family." And it pissed him off. And he's basically saying to his wife, grab the kid, go to your mom's, hide, do whatever. Well, this other guy comes in. He's like an assassin who worked for the girl's father. And he's been there since she was born. And he basically said, "Hey, do you know how to get to the collector?" He goes, "Yeah, I'll show you. But what's in it for me? You just open the door and that's it." All right, cool. So they had this deal that he was going to get him in, show him where they were at. And it was pretty cool because I had a lot of winks to different horror genres, different people who have helped out in the horror community. Because basically, where he was showing them to go in this one, because they were going to go to the collector's lair. And when they took him to the lair, his lair's in a hotel called Hotel Argento, right? So it was pretty cool. There's a little wink right there. But anyways, they go into his lair, and they have this whole team assembled, an assassin team. So you have the guy, Lucello, I think his name was. Then he has like 3 or 4 other people with him, and they are basically going to be like these bounty hunters. They break into his lair, and they try to find out where he is to try to see if the girl Emma is alive. Well, she is alive. You find out that she's taken in, and she sees all the hidden things behind who the collector is. What he does to the victims that he keeps. The ones that he keeps, he ends up controlling them, torturing them for his own sick games. And then you find out that he's an anthropologist, meaning he basically studies insects and things and has his own museum of all these insects and also parts of people that he's collected over the years. And you find that out little by little, right? So little by little, all the team members, they're taken out one by one until eventually that the collector sets him up to he's picking them off one by one, setting them up on traps. And then he would set up a trap where there's a speaker, and then they're actually happening in another room and sets off bombs and shit. Well, at the same time, Emma, she breaks out this girl, and this girl, she's kind of a little out there. She's like, "Oh, you're never going to survive and anything like that, blah, 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 blah. And he likes me. He'll let me live, not you, because he likes me." And they kind of played off on that a little bit, but they didn't get too much into it. But anyways, since it being his house, it reminded me of Saw 2, where little things where they stepped on nails and shit that were sticking out of the ground, and then they would get their foot up, boom, there goes the trap, right? So, little by little, everybody dies. One of the other main characters, Lucero, or Lucio, whatever his name was. I can't pronounce it. But anyways, it was him, another person, Emma, and Arkin. And this scene was brutal as shit. The collector kicks down a door, has his 2 dogs go after him. And the 2 dogs, that they get killed or whatever in the crossfires. And then he's just spraying them with AR-15. He thinks he gets him. And then he tries to run and hide. And they all survive except Lucello, because he's basically, his hand's caught in a trap. And then this conveyor thing is going to come down and grab him. Well, as they get to the end where they're going to escape, the collector comes out, stabs one of the other henchmen that was helping them, and she dies. Gets in a fight with Arkin, knocks out Arkin, and then basically Lucero comes out. They have this, knife battle, which is pretty cool because it's real tactical knife fighting or whatever. Then eventually Arkin wakes up, beats the shit out of the collector, throws him down the basement of his lair, lights him on fire because the collector was going to blow up everything. The fire department comes, and I didn't get into that part, but they had 2 bullets left in a revolver. He shot a dude, Arkin did, to alert the authorities. When the cops were there, he shot at the cop, and then basically that alerted everybody to come, right? So as the place is on fire, Emma's calling for help, and the fire department figures out where they're at, break down the door, and they're out. You think it's happily ever after. Then Arkin sees that there's a burning mask of the Collector. He got out because he basically was on fire, put himself in a box, and got out. Well, then at the end, later on, they don't say how far along it is. He tracks him down and figures out who the Collector is. And he basically says, okay, you're quite the Collector, and kind of opens up a little to his backstory. How his dad had a museum, how he was a licensed ophthalmologist, and he found him within a 200-mile radius. They didn't say how far it was, where he had traveled to go to them, but Arkin found out who it was, and the Collector turned around and said, "Are you going to kill me?" "No, I'm not going to kill you." Arkin said he was going to torture him and everything, and then the Collector tries coming at him. Arkin knocks him down, puts him in the box, and basically just tries to and finally shuts it into the collection. And that's only been a 1 and a 2 part movie, which is really strange because part 2 was good. I loved it. I mean, as a horror fan, you appreciate it, but as a normal fan, it just, as a normal moviegoer, I shall say, they didn't enjoy it because it was too gory or too this, too that, and so they never did a part 3. So this part 2 came out in 2012, and there was talk about doing a part 3, but Marcus Dunstan kind of just went his own way and did his thing, and Patrick Melton also helped write this, but Patrick Dunstan, he directed both of them, and he did it really good for what it was. And bottom line with this movie, I say it's really underrated as a slasher film, because you have a lot of different slasher films that get a lot of credit, Jason, Freddy, Michael, but no one ever talks about the Collector. No one ever talks about the Wishmaster, like I said in the previous episode. And it's very underrated, but it was really good for what it was. I mean, if you're into slasher films, that's your film to go to, I say. If you love Saw, go see The Collector in the Collection. And I found a new love for it, again, after I got to rewatch it, doing all my research for this episode. And it was pretty cool how they did all this. They really did. The part 2 had a lot of wink to everybody who was in the horror and stuff like that. Part 1 played a lot off of the Saw method, where it had the green tint on the film and stuff. And then part 2, well, I should say part 1 and part 2, they basically had the whole production team, everybody that worked on the first few Saw films, they all came to work on The Collector. Some of them left, and then they went to go do in part 2, The Collection. And when they did The Collection, they also brought back Charlie Closer. Charlie Closer, he's known for doing the Saw theme and Dead Silence. He's got a very distinctive sound. If you hear his music in the horror films, it's probably Charlie Closer. And they brought him back. In part 2, the soundtrack was great. You know, the build-up and everything, what they had. The first one had Depeche Mode. That was your biggest band. The second one, they did a little bit more techno and more like Charlie Closer sound. And it sounded really cool. But it had a lot of, resemblance to Saw. It really did. And what I liked about the whole series, you never see the Collector's face. You see him with the mask, you see his eyes, you see his mouth move, but you never see his whole face. Even when he's unmasked, they don't show it at all. Even when Arkin found him at his own home, they turned around and showed the back view of his head. They showed, basically, he was a big-bodied guy, but they didn't show who he was. And it built more mystique on it. But, I mean, that, to me, it was a damn good series. Doesn't get that much credit as it deserves, but it should. I think it should, I mean, let me know what you guys think in the comments below, because I'm anxious to hear what you guys think. If you've ever seen The Collection or The Collector, let me know what you guys think, because I know right now, as of April 15th, I know for a fact that The Collector is on Hulu, and The Collection Part 2 is on Netflix. So if you've never seen those films, now's your shot, I basically found those as a fluke when I was researching, like, oh shit, they're on Netflix and Hulu. All right, I'll catch up on this, right? I enjoyed it. I don't know what y'all guys think, what y'all like in different films. Got a little bit of a surprise coming up, You'll probably see a little small video on what I'm going to do for the next episode. But anyways, I'm glad y'all joined me for this episode of The Collection and The Collector. Or should I say The Collection series. One of my other favorite underrated ones. And hope you all enjoyed this, It's been fun. It really has. But yeah, thank you for watching episode 15. And as always, I'm the SaWGuy. I'll come at you again with episode 16. That's all I got, and I'm out, guys.
Bow down to the Bow down to the king.